if I asked you to describe a major theme in your childhood, what comes to mind? Is it maybe a favorite movie or a favorite actress or a favorite song? Okay, so the reason that I ask is because I grew up in the glorious 90s. And if you were a little girl in the 90s, you know all about Barbies and Polly Pocket and Pink and Pigtails everything. You probably caught reruns of Shirley Temple on TV. And there is no way that you don't know the names of Sharon Stone and Pamela Anderson, because they were two of the biggest sex symbols of the decade.
Yes, they were.
Okay? It was an exciting time. But there was one recurring theme that I picked up on even as a child. It was as if the theme was, it's better to be white. White, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and thin. It's like this was the recipe for female beauty.
Yeah.
It was the thing everybody strived for. So if you were overweight, you could go on a diet. If you had brown hair, you could dye it blonde. But what were your options if you were biracial like me?
Yep.
Today, I want to talk to you about how a lack of Black representation in books, in the media, and in toys had a negative, lasting impact on my self-concept and self-esteem. All right, so I know what you're thinking, okay? I don't remember it like that. Maybe she's just being sensitive, but let me introduce you to some of this research, okay? So Hughes, Hassel, and Cox conducted a study in 2003 to 2008, and it was looking at the lack of Black representation in children's books. So during the study, they found that not only was there a lack of Black representation, but the stories that they did find were, and I quote, inauthentic and monolithic. And they found that in both cases, this caused damaging effects to the self-concept of children of color.
It would.
That's 2008. So that means 18 years later, we are still having the same conversation.
Wow.
So I've just told you about the effects of the lack of Black representation in children's books. Now let me tell you about how children of color are impacted by the lack of representation in the media. So remember some of those stars I was just telling you about? Pamela Anderson, Sharon Stone, Shirley Temple. They all kind of fit the recipe, don't they? Well, I found some research from a psychologist named Dr. William Cross, and he developed this 5-stage model of racial identity development. But we'll only need to look at the first step. The first step is the pre-encounter stage. Now, during this stage, this is when children of color really absorb the ideas and the beliefs that they're being socialized in society. So he found that these children of color were beginning to learn that it's better to be white. Now, Diane Bird and her colleagues expanded on this, and they call it internalized oppression. And it's when negative stereotypes from society become part of the self-concept and in turn negatively affect it. So can you imagine being in kindergarten and your self-concept is already telling you that you're not worthy? How do you think that that would make you interact with others? But also importantly, how do you think that that would make you treat yourself?
Wow.
Okay, so I've just told you about the negative impacts of a lack of representation in the media for children of color. Now I'm going to tell you about growing up without access to Black toys.
Wow.
So I'm sure you know.
Maya, you're hitting me. You're hitting me all over. Wow.
Barbie. You couldn't go to any store without seeing Barbie. Barbie was everywhere, and she had everything. She had all the jobs. She had all the cars, the motorcycles, the toys. She even had 2 men fighting over her. She had a dream house. She had a kid, but you know what Maytel didn't have on the stores at Walmart? Black Barbie. Apparently that was too much to ask for. And by the time Black Barbie did hit the shelves, she wasn't really black at all. She looked like Barbie, but with a tan. So the messages that it sent out to me that I picked up was, okay, all right, you can be black, but you should really try to be as white as possible.
Oh.
My self-concept became this internalized script filled with self-hatred. It was a cognitive conservatism that I couldn't change. So I spent years battling eating disorders, trying to be thin enough, frying my hair with heat and bleach, and making, or at least trying to make sure that my white identity superseded my black identity. Okay, so now I've just told you about how a lack of black representation in toys negatively affected my self-concept. I would like to leave you with my hope. My hope is that I didn't just fill you with feelings of anger or shame or resentment. Instead, I hope I gave you a little bit of insight that could make each of us a little bit more empathetic towards one another. The lack of Black representation in books, in the media, and in toys had a lasting negative impact on my self-concept. But I hope that the mistakes of the past can be lessons to correct the future. Thank you.
Very good. Very good.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
That really
That's good.
gave me, that was good. That really gave me, wow, lots to think about. And it made me for one moment happy that I didn't have a girl. But then this it's another thing with boys also, because on my
G.I. Joe.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Very good.
Oh,
So now, Maya, you can breathe.
I'm better now. Oh, I'm like instantly better now.